My name is Lena, and the night my parents forgot my birthday was the night I stopped believing I belonged anywhere. Before I tell you how this ends, let me say this. If you've ever been the child who waited while everyone else was celebrated, comment your story below. Share this if it hits somewhere uncomfortable, and stay with me until the end, because what I did 10 years later wasn't loud, it was surgical. I was turning 18, not 5, not some forgettable age. 18, the age people call important. I remember standing in my bedroom, smoothing a cheap black dress I bought myself, telling my reflection, "Don't expect too much. Just dinner, just cake, just them." The house was quiet. Too quiet. At 6:30, I checked my phone. Nothing. At 7, I called my mom. "Hey," I said, forcing lightness into my voice, "are you guys on the way?" She paused. Not a long pause, just long enough. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, distracted. "Tonight's not great. We'll do something later, okay?" Later. That word again. My dad didn't even get on the phone. I sat on my bed, the room slowly darkening as the sun went down, the silence pressing in. I told myself not to cry. I told myself I was being dramatic. Then my phone buzzed. Not from them. It was a post, a video. My sister. Confetti raining down, music shaking the walls, a massive banner behind her that read, "Happy Birthday, Emma," in glittering gold letters. Balloons, a cake taller than my torso, my parents in the background laughing, clapping, my mother kissing her cheek, my father lifting a glass. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so hard it felt violent. It wasn't Emma's birthday, it was mine. I grabbed my keys and drove. I don't remember deciding to, I just needed to see it with my own eyes, like my brain refused to accept what it already knew. Their house glowed from the street, lights everywhere, cars lining the curb, music spilling out the front door. I parked across the road and just sat there, hands locked around the steering wheel. I watched my mom carry out another tray of food. I watched my dad adjust the banner. I watched my sister throw her head back, laughing like she'd never known a day of being ignored. I didn't go inside. I couldn't. Instead, I called my mom again. She answered, annoyed. "Lena, now's not a good time." I whispered, "I'm outside." Silence. Then she sighed. "This isn't about you right now." That sentence burned itself into me. I drove home numb, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the floor of my dark bedroom. No cake, no candle, no song, just the sound of my own breathing and the echo of something breaking quietly inside my chest. That was the moment I understood the truth. I wasn't forgotten, I was optional. The next morning, my phone lit up like nothing had happened. A text from my mom. "We'll celebrate soon. Yesterday just got hectic." No apology, no acknowledgement, just a rewrite. I drove to their house because part of me still needed to hear them say it out loud, that they were wrong, that they saw me, that I mattered. I walked into the kitchen and the smell of leftover cake hit me first. Emma was at the counter, scrolling through her phone, wearing one of those satisfied smiles people wear when the world bends for them. "You missed a great party," she said without looking up. I said, "It was my birthday." She laughed, actually laughed. "Relax, Mom said you didn't care about that stuff." I turned to my parents. "You skipped my birthday." My dad sighed like I'd asked for money. "We didn't skip it, we just postponed." To throw Emma a party? My voice shook despite myself. My mom folded her arms. "You're being dramatic. You're older. You should understand." Understand what? That love in this house had a hierarchy? I waited for it. The apology, the recognition. It never came. Instead, my mom said, "You've always been sensitive, Lena. You read into things." That was the moment I realized the damage wasn't the party, it was the denial. the way they erased my hurt while standing knee-deep in evidence of it. I stopped arguing after that, not because I accepted it, but because something in me went quiet. Years passed, not in a montage of triumph, not in some glossy transformation, just slow, grinding distance. I moved out. I answered calls less. I showed up to holidays and sat on the edge of conversations like a guest who stayed too long. Emma thrived. Promotions, praise, family dinners where her name was said with pride, while mine floated past like background noise. My parents talked about me, not to me. I became a topic, not a daughter, and I learned how to survive without asking for anything. I built my life like a locked room. Friends stayed outside the door. Lovers never got a key. Every time someone got close, I waited for the moment they'd choose someone else, and when they did, I told myself I'd known all along. At night, though, that birthday came back, not the cake. Not the decorations, the sentence. This isn't about you right now. I didn't forgive it. I didn't confront it again. I archived it, sealed it, and carried it quietly like a weapon I never planned to use. Then, 10 years later, my phone rang. My mother's voice was suddenly warm. Too warm. "Lena, your father and I were thinking, our 50th anniversary is coming up." My dad chimed in, cheerful. "We want to do something special, something meaningful." There it was, the word they only used when they needed me. "We were hoping you'd host it," my mom said. "You're so organized, so responsible." Responsible, useful, convenient. I closed my eyes, that old silence roaring back into my ears. I thought of the dark bedroom, the glowing house across the street, the way they'd rewritten my pain until it vanished. I smiled, even though they couldn't see it. "Of course," I said, and in that moment they had no idea what they'd just agreed to. The moment I said yes, they changed. Not toward me, toward the version of me they needed. My mom called every other day with ideas, venues she liked, color schemes she'd already decided on, guest lists full of people who knew Emma's favorite wine but couldn't remember my name. My dad forwarded emails with subject lines like, "Make it elegant," and "Once in a lifetime." Neither of them asked how I was. They spoke to me like a contractor who'd already agreed on price. Emma inserted herself immediately. "I'll help oversee things," she said, like this was a privilege. "Mom gets stressed, and we want it to be perfect." Perfect. That word again. She critiqued everything I didn't even show her. "That's too subtle. That's not impressive enough. This is their 50th. As if the number alone demanded spectacle. I listened, I nodded, I took notes, and I said nothing. They mistook my silence for reconciliation. My mom started ending calls with, "This has been so good for us, Lena, planning together again." My dad joked about how proud he was that I'd stepped up. No one mentioned my birthday, not once. 10 years, and it was still invisible. We met at the venue 2 weeks before the anniversary, a grand hall with high ceilings and chandeliers that looked expensive enough to blind you if you stared too long. My mom clasped her hands together, eyes shining. "Can you imagine everyone we love in one room?" I almost laughed. Emma walked the floor like she owned it. "We'll need a statement centerpiece, something bold, something unforgettable." Unforgettable. I agreed. I always agreed. At home, alone, I opened my laptop and created an invitation. Gold lettering, formal language, a date, a time, and then I closed the file and never sent it. No caterer was booked, no flowers ordered, no guests notified. I booked the hall. That was it. The rest was intention. The night before the anniversary, I sat at my kitchen table with a single piece of paper in front of me. I wrote the words slowly, carefully, like they deserved respect. Now you know what it feels like. I didn't sign my name. I didn't need to. The day of the event, my parents texted non-stop, heart emojis, exclamation points. Emma sent a selfie in a dress that probably cost more than my rent. "So excited," she wrote. I arrived at the hall an hour early. The space echoed when I walked in, my footsteps sharp against the marble floor. I stood in the center of the room and looked up at the chandeliers, unlit, waiting. I turned off every light. The darkness swallowed the room whole. I placed the note on a single table near the entrance. No decorations, no music, no chairs. Just that piece of paper, glowing white in the dark. Then I walked out. I didn't hide. I didn't wait nearby. I drove home, sat on my couch, and watched the time tick forward. 7 o'clock came and went. At 7:12, my phone buzzed. At 7:13, it rang. At 7:14, it wouldn't stop. I didn't answer, because for the first time in my life, they were about to walk into the silence they'd left me in. They walked into the dark laughing. I know that because my dad left a voicemail, his voice light, amused. "Very funny, Lena. We get it. Where's the surprise?" Then the laughter drained. The next voicemail was my mother, whispering, confused. "Is this the right room?" By the third call, her voice was sharp. "Lena, this isn't funny." I imagined them standing there, my parents dressed for celebration, Emma hovering nearby, heels clicking on an empty floor. I imagined the silence pressing in, the chandeliers dead above them, the absence impossible to ignore. Then my dad found the note. He read it aloud. I could hear the paper rustling through the voicemail, his breath hitching mid-sentence. "Now you know what it feels like," he said slowly. "What is this supposed to mean?" My phone rang again, and again. I finally answered on the 8th call. "What did you do?" my mother demanded. I said calmly, "I hosted exactly what you taught me to." Emma cut in, her voice slicing through the speaker. "You humiliated them." "Do you have any idea how cruel this is?" "Cruel." I laughed once, a short, broken sound. "You mean like canceling your child's birthday to throw your favorite one a party?" Silence. My dad tried to regain control. "That was years ago. You're still holding on to that?" "I'm not holding on to it," I said. "I'm standing in it. You never apologized. You never even admitted it happened." My mom's voice softened, like that would fix it. "Lena, we did the best we could. Families make mistakes." "No," I said. "You made choices, over and over, and every time you chose her." Emma exploded. "This is insane. You're ruining their anniversary over something petty." I cut her off. "You don't get to speak for my childhood." Another pause, longer this time. My dad said, quietly, "We didn't know you felt that way." I closed my eyes. "I told you. You just decided it didn't count." My mom started crying then. Real tears or strategic ones, I couldn't tell. "You could have talked to us." "I did," I said. "You told me it wasn't about me." No one spoke. I let the silence stretch, just like it had on my 18th birthday. Then I said the words I'd waited 10 years to say. "I didn't do this to punish you. I did it so you'd finally feel it, the emptiness, the confusion, the moment you realize you don't matter enough to be remembered." Emma whispered, "You're heartless." I replied, "I learned from the best." I hung up. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I sat alone in my apartment, the city humming outside my window, and felt something settle inside me. Not peace, not joy, but finality. They still tell people I'm cold, ungrateful, dramatic. I don't correct them. Because the truth is, it's simpler than any excuse they could make. They taught me how to disappear. I just chose the moment I stopped coming back.